All right, so let's talk about music. You know those songs, they just take you right back to being younger.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the ones that maybe make you cringe a little.
Mhm.
But also, like, you get this rush of nostalgia.
Uh-huh.
Like, for me, Drop It, like, It's Hot, Snoop Dogg,
Right?
High School, instantly.
Yeah, yeah.
Or Fall Out Boy, Dance,
Oh, yeah.
pure teenage angst.
Sure.
And Gwen Stefani, don't even get me started on Hollaback Girl. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone listening has their list. Those songs that are like your ultimate time travel anthems, what are they? What takes you back?
It really is fascinating how certain music, it just has this hold on us.
Totally.
It's not just liking the tune.
Right.
It's deeper than that.
Yeah.
Like emotional, personal connections
Yeah.
that we make when we're, coming of age, all of that.
Exactly. And that's what we're doing today. We're diving in,
Okay.
not just listening to some old tunes.
Yeah.
We're going deeper. We're exploring the science of why music from our youth, it just feels so profoundly connected to who we are.
I like that.
So like a deep dive into the psychology of music, and we're going to peek into how our brains work,
Okay.
all to unpack the power of these nostalgic anthems.
So one of the key things is this idea of episodic memory.
Yeah.
Like, think of it as our brain's filing system, right?
Okay.
But it's not just storing, like, facts and figures.
Yeah.
It's entire experiences.
Gotcha.
And music, unlike a painting or something, it unfolds over time.
Right.
It's woven into moments, experiences. It becomes part of our memories.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's not just the song, it's the whole experience around it. Like
Right.
where you were, who you were with, what you were feeling.
Exactly.
It's like all bundled up into this emotional package.
Yeah, and research shows this connection is really strong during our late teens and early 20s.
Okay.
Studies have found that our preference for popular music actually peaks, like between 17 and 23. Some say maybe even as early as 17.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like prime time for figuring yourself out.
So breaking free from childhood, relationships, figuring out who you want to be, all that.
Yeah, you got it.
So music basically becomes the soundtrack to that whole transformation.
Right.
And embeds itself deep in our memories. Like, explains why a song from your high school prom can make you feel things decades later.
Totally. And what's interesting is it's not only happy memories.
Really?
Yeah, even music that's tied to like heartbreak or a tough time, it can actually become enriching later on with
Right.
time, with distance. Think about those old breakup ballads.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they might still have that tinge of sadness, but there's also this like layer of understanding, even growth that comes with it now, like revisiting your past with a new perspective.
I never thought of it that way, but yeah, it makes sense. Like, my favorite band in high school, super angsty emo group, and now that you mention it, that was when I was really trying to figure out who I was, like what I stood for, and those songs, as cheesy as they might sound now.
They really were the soundtrack to all that, all those intense emotions.
It's like each song is like this potent mnemonic device. It triggers emotions, vivid memories, all tied to a time and place. But here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Dr. Rita Aiello, she's a music psychologist. She says it's not that the music from our youth was objectively better, but it's just so intensely tied to all those emotions and experiences from that time.
Right. Okay. That explains why I still get goosebumps when I hear that one song. Takes me right back. But what about when people say music just isn't as good as it used to be?
Oh, yeah.
Is that just us like clinging to the past?
Yeah.
Or is there something more there?
Well, before we get too down on ourselves,
Yeah.
it's important to know that our brains, they actually prefer the familiar, especially when it's music tied to our identity. Studies show that reward centers in our brains, they light up when we hear familiar music,
No way.
especially the ones with positive memories. It's like our brain is giving us a dopamine hit. Comfort, pleasure, all that. Explains why you might put on the same playlist when you're stressed or feeling down.
So it's not just us being grumpy. It's our brains doing their thing.
Right.
Looking for those familiar sounds, that comfort, that sense of self.
Exactly.
But doesn't that make it harder to connect with new music the older we get?
Well, that's a question a lot of people ask.
Yeah.
It's not about erasing those old connections.
Right.
It's more about understanding why they exist
Okay.
and maybe using that to approach new music differently.
So we get why those old tunes have such a hold on us, but does that mean we're stuck in a musical time warp forever? Can we ever really connect with new music the same way?
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, isn't it?
It is. It's like our brains crave that familiar comfort,
Yeah.
But we also have that curiosity, right, to explore new stuff. So
Yeah.
how do we do that? How do we bridge the gap between those memories and all this new music out there?
Well, one key is understanding that every generation, goes through this.
Oh, yeah.
It's easy to think, oh, music was so much better back then.
Totally.
But you have to remember every era has its good songs and its bad songs.
Right, right.
Dr. Cudietta, remember
Yeah,
him?
yeah.
He made a good point. We tend to remember the best of the best from our youth.
Oh, interesting.
And those kind of just create this, idealized soundtrack.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And all the forgettable tracks, they just kind of,
Fade away.
yeah, they fade away.
Like a highlight reel.
Exactly.
Like our brains have done the filtering for us.
Yeah.
It makes me think about those mixtapes we used to make.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was all about finding those essential songs, those anthems that defined, a moment.
Yeah, they become like little sonic time capsules.
Yeah.
Every track is a trigger
Right.
for a memory, a feeling.
It's so true. Music taste is so personal. It's shaped by so much, your experiences.
Sure.
But also, cultural influences, trends, even where you live.
Yeah, geography even.
What might sound like noise to one person
Uh-huh.
could be another generation's anthem.
Absolutely. And this brings us to a really interesting example.
Okay.
The Beatles.
Okay.
Their music exploded in the 60s,
Yeah.
but it still resonates today
It does.
across generations.
Totally.
It's more than just catchy tunes.
Right.
They captured a moment,
Mm-hmm.
like a cultural moment, reflecting, even influencing the world at the time,
Wow, yeah.
the social and political climate.
It wasn't just a band.
It wasn't. They became a symbol
Okay.
of change,
Oh, interesting.
a voice for a generation
Yeah.
trying to figure things out.
That's an angle I hadn't thought of.
Yeah.
It's not just about, what you like. It's about the whole context. The
Exactly.
music we connect with, it often reflects the world we were in at that time.
Right.
The hopes, the anxieties,
You got it.
the dreams of a generation.
If you think about it that way, it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
which artists today
Yeah.
will have that same power
Right.
later on?
Wow.
What songs will be the anthems of our
dude.
time?
That's mind-blowing. It's like we're curating history, the
Yeah.
soundtrack of our lives, but also maybe
Right.
contributing to this bigger cultural story.
Exactly.
But knowing how strong these nostalgia triggers are,
Uh-huh.
can we ever truly appreciate new music the same way?
Hmm.
Or are we always going to see it
Yeah,
through the lens of our past?
that's the question. Yeah, it really makes you think, can we embrace new music without, nostalgia getting in the way?
It's like we've got this internal measuring stick, always comparing new stuff to those old favorites.
Right. I think it's all about shifting how we see things. Instead of judging new music or comparing it, what if we just got curious?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, an opportunity
Yeah.
to expand our horizons,
Yeah.
Discover new sounds, new artists. Who knows? We might be surprised.
I like that. It's about being open, right?
Right.
Letting go of those old ideas.
Exactly. And who knows? Maybe we'll find our next nostalgia anthem, that song that captures right now, and we'll love it years later.
That's a great way to think about it. It reminds us that, our musical journeys, they never really end.
They don't.
The songs we love now, they could be those treasured memories later on. But, there's something to be said about going back to those older tracks, too. The ones that, have that special place in our hearts.
Absolutely. There's a reason those songs become classics.
Mm.
They last. They speak to everyone, regardless of the generation. And revisiting them, it can be like reconnecting with an old friend, reminding us of who we were and how far we've come.
This whole conversation has been amazing. It's made me realize that music, it's not just entertainment. It's way more than that.
It is.
It shapes us. It connects us to moments in time. It's like the soundtrack to our lives.
It's a mix of memories, cultural things, and even how our brains work. And the best part, it's a journey of always discovering more.
So as we wrap up our deep dive here, I want everyone listening to think about their own connection to music. What songs take you back? Are there new artists you want to check out? And most importantly, how can we all approach music, old and new, with that sense of curiosity, that appreciation for how powerful it is in our lives?
Keep listening, keep exploring, and keep those memories alive.
So well said. That's all for our deep dive into the music of our youth. Until next time, keep the music playing.